The low FODMAP diet can have a lot of benefits, especially if you're experiencing the symptoms of IBS. You're feeling bloated, gassy, uncomfortable after eating meals, or you may be a candidate for the low FODMAP diet. But the low FODMAP diet is not a long-term diet, and it does have some risks, and some people just don't need to do it. So in this video, we're going to look at what the low FODMAP diet is, and whether this diet with the weird name can be beneficial to you. The chances are, if you're watching this video, you've heard of the low FODMAP diet. And that's because there's a lot of people out there recommending it. Not just, weird people on the internet or your next door neighbor, but it's often recommended by medical doctors, gastroenterologists, dietitians, nutritionists. And that's because the low FODMAP diet has a lot of research around it for being effective. And while I often recommend the low FODMAP diet to clients, it's not a long-term diet. I often recommend people trial it for 2 to 4 weeks, see if it helps. Even if it does help, it doesn't mean you're just doomed to this weird diet for the rest of your life, but it indicates there's a bacterial imbalance. And we also then want to add foods back in one category at a time, see if there's one particular trigger that you're reacting to. But if you find you're reacting to all of the low FODMAP foods, you most likely have IBS caused by SIBO. If you have IBS, probably tried lots of different things. Medications, supplements, different protocols, parasite cleanses, gluten-free, dairy-free. And a lot of people I find they balk at the low FODMAP diet. They look at it and they think, this is actually cutting out a lot of healthy foods. How can this be good? And that's true. The low FODMAP diet is different to other diets. It's not like you're cutting out junk food or processed foods, although that is part of the low FODMAP diet. But you're actually cutting out a lot of healthy foods. Things like certain vegetables, fruits, grains. That's because some of these foods are high FODMAP. So let's start by understanding what this low FODMAP diet actually means. And then we'll get into who should do it, who shouldn't do it, and the best way to do this diet. And I'll include a link to the low FODMAP guide in the show notes. So have a look at the description below and you can download a free PDF guide. So low FODMAP stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, 𝗵𝗲 and polyols. So what does that mean in English? Well, fermentable foods is just foods that ferment in the small intestine, and that creates food for the bacteria there, feed off these foods, and those bacteria create gases, and those gases cause the bloating, distension, and discomfort. So the O stands for oligosaccharides. This is a type of carbohydrate made up of sugar molecules linked together. So examples of these would be things like wheat and rye-based products, they're known as fructans, onions and garlic, they're common types of oligosaccharides that people react to. Also artichokes, leeks, those types of foods, and chicory root. Galacto-oligosaccharides are also under this category, and that would be things like legumes, a common trigger for many people. The D stands for disaccharides. This is 2 sugar molecules bonded together. This is things like lactose and sucrose. For most people, they don't react to sucrose. Sucrose is actually made up of fructose and glucose, and it's certain foods that are higher in fructose that are the problem. And then the main problem with the disaccharides is lactose. And a lot of people are lactose intolerant because they just lack the enzyme break down lactose and absorb it. So sometimes this is one of the FODMAPs that people always have to minimize or just avoid to avoid digestion problems. Sometimes if you heal the gut, address things like SIBO, you can find that you can eat more lactose. So the monosaccharides are simple sugar molecules. This is things like fructose, glucose, and galactose. And fructose is probably the biggest problem here. That's why people react to certain fruits like apples, pears, watermelon, mangoes. Super healthy foods, great tasting, but some people just don't have the enzymes to break down fructose. Also, if you've got bacterial overgrowth, you may start to react to these foods as well. And finally, the last one is polyols. So polyols are sugar alcohols, and a lot of people have problems digesting these. These are found in some fruits. Once again, things like apples and pears could be high in sorbitol. Other things, like a lot of processed foods will have xylitol, malitol, those types of things in erythritol, anything ending in ol, things like artificial sweeteners. And these are undigested and create food for the bacteria, and that will often lead to excess gas, bloating, and discomfort. So sometimes people just have to minimize these foods or cut them out altogether if they're very reactive. So that's what FODMAP stands for. So what exactly is the low FODMAP diet? Well, it's been around for over 20 years now. It was first developed at the Monash Medical Center in Melbourne, and it was based on their research that the diet was developed. So with the low FODMAP diet, it's not like you're cutting out things like gluten and dairy and trying to see if you're reacting to these foods. Usually when you're doing that, you've got to be 100%. With the low FODMAP diet, even if you follow it 80 or 90%, you should see good improvement in things like bloating, gas, changing bowel habits like constipation, diarrhea. And then once you've done that, you can start adding these foods back in one category at a time. And for some people, they identify that one particular category that they have to minimize or avoid all the time. But if you find that you're reacting to all of the FODMAP food, this could be a good clue that you have SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So you should have trillions of bacteria in your large intestine, but when you get an overgrowth of bacteria in the small intestine, that's what leads to these symptoms. So if that's the case for you, you might have to do a short-term course of antimicrobial herbs, things to help with motility, because SIBO can damage that motility. So things just move through slowly, and that creates another environment for gas and bloating as well. It could be lack of digestive enzymes, so that could be something else to look at. So you can do things like a SIBO breath test. I often recommend the 𝗵𝗲 device for that, an at-home device that you can test as many times as you like. You can even test the different foods that you're eating to see what's triggering the gas and bloating for you. I also recommend advanced stool testing. This can look at things like digestive enzymes, inflammation markers. Do you have not enough of the good bacteria, too much of the bad bacteria? So if you're getting IBS, starting with tests like the 𝗪𝗏 or the 𝗪𝗏 test could be a good place to start. So because the low FODMAP diet cuts out lots of healthy foods, you don't want to do it too long. It cuts out foods that feed the microbiome of the large intestine. So things like onions and garlic, they're high in inulin. Other fruits and vegetables like the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cabbage, those types of things, they're excellent for the microbiome, so you don't want to cut them out long term. So once you do that 2 to 4 week experiment, and if you get good results, then you'll start to add these foods back in one category at a time. I recommend picking out one of your favorite foods from each category, trialing it in different amounts for a few days, and if everything's fine, keep that food in and move on to the next category. Some people, they're very sensitive, and if you're getting a few symptoms from that category, it may be worth cutting that out for a little bit and trying one category at a time. For some people, they just react a little bit to this one, a little bit to that one. But when they combine everything together, onions, cabbage, apples, then they get the symptoms that they were experiencing before. And once you've gone through each individual category, then you'll have a plan of what you need to avoid in the long term or just minimize. Don't forget, these are not allergies, this is just an intolerance, and you're just having trouble breaking down these foods. So who shouldn't do the low FODMAP diet? The diet is mainly for people with IBS type of symptoms. Bloating in particular, excess gas, changing stool habits, reflux even. But if you're not getting those symptoms, you don't need to do the diet. A few years ago, I had a client come to me and they said, I want to do the low FODMAP diet. And I said, okay, do you have excess bloating or gas or any other digestion symptoms? And they're like, no, my digestion's fine. My friend came and did it with you a couple of months ago and they've lost all this weight. And so I want to do the low FODMAP diet for weight loss. I smiled and explained to them that their friend lost weight because they improved their digestion, probably lost a lot of bloating and gas, reduced down inflammation, which has improved absorption of nutrients, and that's led to weight loss. They may even have felt better and started exercising more or something like that, I don't know. But I explained that the low FODMAP diet is not a weight loss diet. There's so many other better ways to lose weight. But weight loss can be a usually wanted side effect unless you're underweight already. So yeah, the low FODMAP diet is only for people with digestion issues, and it's not a long-term diet. Sometimes I'll have clients come to me with digestion issues and they're like, yeah, I've been following the low FODMAP diet for 2 years now. It used to work, but now it doesn't work that well. And it may be because they've starved the beneficial bacteria in their large intestines. They sort of, address one issue, because they didn't do the reintroduction of the food and just stuck to this restrictive diet, they create an imbalance in their microbiome and they may be very low in their beneficial bacteria. That's another reason why you should only do it short term. If you've been experiencing digestion symptoms and you've tried lots of things and nothing's worked, try downloading the low FODMAP diet we've got in the description. Give it a go for 2 to 4 weeks and let me know in the comments how it's worked for you. Or if you've tried it and had success, leave a comment below. And if you do the low FODMAP diet and it doesn't help, that's when you definitely want to do more advanced testing to get to the underlying cause of what's going on. It could be celiac disease, it could be gut imbalances, inflammatory bowel disease. There's so many different things that could be affecting your digestion. And doing advanced stool testing can help to get to the root cause of those symptoms. We'll provide a link to the recommended tests and everything you need in the description below. So if you like this video, click like, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.